We're still standing in the shield shop of Viator Accius, and last time I think I've read a book that's here on the table, Frontier Conquest, and was about to look at his other books. Mainly ones that I haven't read yet. I have read those. Manual of Armor, Mixed Unit Tactics. I think he has no other books. I'm not even sure if I checked out his rooms yet, but I did now, and they're both locked. So, goodbye for now. What is this? It's a shield, of course. He sells shields. Alright, back on the street. What time is it? 7 PM. Might be closing time again.
So,
although...
what do you have to report? Didn't you hear the explosion? Some damn drunk of a wizard started hurling fireballs at passers-by. Took 4 guards to haul him in. Don't forget, my friend, you and I are what stand between order and chaos. Without us, the Empire would crumble. Just remember, my sword's here if you need it. You run into any trouble, just holler.
I love that small talk.
Speak.
So silly, yet very funny and informative. Although, when you play Skyrim, you know you're playing a more new game. Before I check those, I want to go to the other side. Because there is at least one shop, maybe 2. Who are you, by the way?
How goes it?
Ginwilm, have I talked to you?
Can I help you?
I think I did. Alright.
Bye.
Then the main ingredients. It's still open. Why are they open at this hour? Turdes, maybe it's at Turdes, maybe it stays open in the evenings. Who are you? Ogier Georic.
Finally, a new customer. Please, look around. Just promise me you won't buy from that fetcher, Thoronir.
Again with Thoronir. What about him?
Jensine is running the show. She will get in but good.
Yeah, I'm already on him. What can you tell me about the city?
If I don't have what you need, try Claudette Perrick at the Gilded Carafe. That's right here in the Market District.
I've been there already. It's nice for you to mention her. Honest competition. And do you know of any rumors?
I understand money is tight, but buying discount spells seems like a bad idea.
I think I already bought one. What can you tell me about Nirnroots?
How interesting. I've heard of these glowing roots, but never had the fortune of seeing one. Unfortunately, I know nothing about them.
Of course.
You want to speak to Sindarian of Skingrad. He's an alchemist over there who specializes in unusual plants, fungi, and roots.
So I guess this Ogier fellow and the other woman, I think it was Jensine or Ida of Lenormand, I'm not really sure. Claudette Perrick, maybe. They sent you to this Sindarian and Skingrad. So you have 2 options to further this quest. What do you barter?
Can I interest you in some of my wares?
The same stuff as your colleague or competitor, I guess. Nothing I need though, so... Nope. Goodbye.
Farewell.
Alright, let's check out your shop. Let's see what books you have. Alchemy, of course. No surprise there, I guess. Mandrake roots. Mandrake always reminds me of the movie Pan's Labyrinth. El Laberinto del Fauno. Crazy, crazy movie. But yeah, very, very good as well. I think it even won an Oscar. Alright. Your rooms are closed, so I'm out of here. It's getting dark. 8:30 almost already.
What is it, citizen? Can I help you? Truth is,
Yeah, you're still saying the
stay
same
safe,
stuff.
citizen.
Agomir is a weird type and he's tall as well.
You have my ear, citizen.
So at this point, there are 2 stores left. One of them is a bookstore, where I will read a lot of books, I can assure you. The other ones is the Copious Coin Purse. That's the store of Thorinir himself. So first I want to go in the first edition. It might be closed though. It is. What about you? You're closed as well. So for role-playing sake I could rest again at the inn. But I could also wait. Although I prefer taking a room because we can get to the inn. You'll never know what people you might find in there. So let's do it again. Viator, I've met you already. Mile Rufus. He is always here.
Yes.
Nothing else though, no one else. Let's rent a room again. I don't have much money anymore though, 26 gold.
What?
Will that buy me... Ooh, a new roomer?
I understand money is tight, but buying discount spells seems like a bad idea.
That's the second one who mentioned that. And the weird thing is, after I bought a discount spell, Protected was... how much is a bed?
I do have a bed of it.
20. Alright,
Very good. It's up.
I'm almost out of
Goodbye.
money. One night's sleep is what I can afford. And after that I have to sleep on the street, I guess. Oh, let's just rest straight ahead. Wait for how many hours? 9 p.m. It's still early. So like 12 hours maybe? 9 a.m. Sure. It's a long sleep. Then we'll be feeling refreshed in the morning. There we go. Okay. Now I warn you, this episode and the next ones will be reading heavy, and I know these past episodes were reading heavy as well. But I promise you, more action is coming. I'm an avid reader in video games. I like to read everything games has to offer in order to learn about the backstory. So with that in mind, I'm going to the first edition, which contains many books because it's a library. Might have some books I've already read, but many new as well. So let's head in. We might be staying here for a long while, so be prepared. Alright, it's quite early to read books. It's never too early, I guess. The books are on the left, the display, and I think he sells books as well. Fintius.
Yes?
Oh, what can you tell me about the city? I think I've met him already once, maybe in the inn.
This is the only bookstore in the city. There's also Renoir's books in Coral, Machna's in Cheydinhall, and Southern Books in Leowin.
So 4 bookstores in the whole world? Or the province at least? Do you know of any rumors?
The assassinations. What else is there to talk about? Perfectly planned and executed. The blades perfectly useless. Complete disaster.
I know. I was there, but maybe I shouldn't tell him that. Barter?
Only quality goods for sale here.
Like I said, he
what
sells
can I interest you in?
a lot of books, even a document of puerile banter, which is a scroll. And the rest is just books, 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 many books. And I think those books are on display as well. So I'll be reading them from
Good day.
from the store. And maybe the ones I didn't read I might buy if I have the money, which I clearly don't have. Before we start, let's check out if his rooms are closed. Yes, private quarters closed. First edition basement locked. Alright, let's start over here. Here we go. Biography of Berenzia. Now, I've read volume 1. There are 3 in total, so let's start with the second one. And the first one started with the story of the little black girl Berenzia, who was raised very innocently, and then she was lured in by a vagrant, and she was convinced to escape with him, to find a better life. So let's read the second volume right now. It's also written by Stern Gambogi, the Imperial scribe. Okay, it reflects on the first volume at least. The first volume of this series told the story of Berenzia's origin. Heiress to the throne of Mournhold until her father rebelled against His Excellency Tiber Septim I and brought ruin to the province of Morrowind. Thanks largely to the benevolence of the Emperor, the child Berenzia was not destroyed with her parents, but reared by Count Sven of Darkmoor, a loyal Imperial trustee. She grew up into a beautiful and pious child, trustful of her guardian's care. This trust, however, was exploited by a wicked orphan stable boy at Count Sven's estate, who, with lies and fabrications, tricked her into fleeing Darkmoor with him when she turned 16. After many adventures on the road, they settled in Riften, a Skyrim city near the Morrowind borders. The stable boy, Straw, was not altogether evil. He loved Berenzia in his own selfish fashion, and deception was the only way he could think of that would cement possession of her. She, of course, felt only friendship toward him, but he was hopeful that she would gradually change her mind. He wanted to buy a small farm and settle down into a comfortable marriage, but at the time his earnings were barely enough to feed and shelter them. After only a short time in Riften, Straw fell in with a bold, villainous Khajiit thief named Theris, who proposed that they rob the Imperial Commandant's house in the central part of the city. Theris said that he had a client, a traitor to the Empire, who would pay well for any information they could gather there. Berenzia happened to overhear this plan and was appalled. She stole away from their rooms and walked the streets of Riften in desperation, torn between her loyalty to the Empire and her love for her friends. In the end, loyalty to the Empire prevailed over personal friendship, and she approached the Commandant's house, revealed her true identity and warned him of her friend's plan. The Commandant listened to her tale, praised her courage, and assured her that no harm would come to her. He was none other than General Symmachus, who had been scouring the countryside in search of her since her disappearance, and had just arrived in Riften, hot in pursuit. He took her into his custody and informed her that, far from being sent away to be sold, she was to be reinstated as the Queen of Mournhold as soon as she turned 18. Until that time, she was to live with the Septim family in a newly built Imperial city, where she would learn something of government and be presented at the Imperial court. At the Imperial city, Berenzia befriended the Emperor Tiber Septim during the middle years of his reign. Tiber's children, particularly his eldest son and heir Pelagius, came to love her as a sister. The ballads of the day praised her beauty, chastity, wit, and learning. On her 18th birthday, the entire Imperial city turned out to watch her farewell procession preliminary to a return to her native land. Sorrowful as they were at her departure, all knew that she was ready for her glorious destiny as sovereign of the Kingdom of Mournhold. That was a short one. I like these short books. And then there's the last version. I think there are only 3, although there are 4 books, but both are version 3. Also written by the same dude. In the second volume of this series, it was told how Berenzia was kindly welcomed to the newly constructed Imperial city by the Emperor Tiber Septim and his family, who treated her like a long-lost daughter during her almost 1-year stay. After several happy months, they're learning her duties as vassal queen under the Empire, the Imperial General Symmachus escorted her to Mournhold, where she took up her duties as queen of her people under his wise guidance. Gradually, they came to love one another and were married and crowned in a splendid ceremony at which the Emperor himself officiated. And now they're getting married. After several hundred years of marriage... Wait, how old can that woman be? She's an Imperial, right? Maybe magic? A son, Helseth, was born to the royal couple amid celebration and joyous prayer. Although it was not publicly known at the time, it was shortly before this blessed event that the Staff of Chaos had been stolen from its hiding place deep in the Mournhold mines by a clever enigmatic bard known only as the Nightingale. 8 years after Halstead's birth, Berenzia bore a daughter, Morgia, named after Symmachus' mother, and the royal couple's joy seemed complete. Alas, shortly after that, relations with the Empire mysteriously deteriorated, leading to much civil unrest in Mournhold. After fruitless investigations and attempts at reconciliation and despair, Berenzia took her young children and traveled to the Imperial city herself to seek the ear of then Emperor Uriel Septim VII. That's the one from this game. Patrick Stewart. Symmachus remained in Mournhold to deal with the grumbling peasants and annoyed nobility, and do what he could to stave off an impending insurrection. During her audience with the Emperor, Berenzia, through her magical arts, came to realize, to her horror and dismay, that the so-called Emperor was an impostor, none other than the bard Nightingale who had stolen the Staff of Chaos. Exercising great self-control, she concealed this realization from him. That evening, news came that Symmachus had fallen in battle with the revolting peasants of Mournhold, and that the kingdom had been taken over by the rebels. Berenzia at this point did not know where to seek help, or from whom. The gods, that fateful night, were evidently looking out for her, as if in redress of her loss. King Idwir of High Rock, an old friend of Uriel Septim and Symmachus, came by on a social call. He comforted her, pledged his friendship, and furthermore confirmed her suspicions that the Emperor was indeed a fraud, and none other than Jagar Tharn. That's a name right out of Star Wars. like a bounty hunter. Anyway, he was the Imperial battle mage and one of the Nightingale's many alter egos. Tharn had supposedly retired into seclusion from public work and installed his assistant Rhea Silmane in his stead. The hapless assistant was later put to death under mysterious circumstances. Supposedly a plot implicating her had been uncovered and she had been summarily executed. However, her ghost had appeared to Edwir in a dream and revealed to him that the true Emperor had been kidnapped by Tharn and imprisoned in an alternate dimension. Tharn had them use the Staff of Chaos to kill her when she attempted to warn the Elder Council of his nefarious plot. Together, Edwir and Berenzia plotted to gain the false Emperor's confidence. Meanwhile, another friend of Suria's, known only as the Champion, who apparently possessed great albeit then untapped potential, was incarcerated at the Imperial dungeons. However, she had access to his dreams and she told him to bide his time until she could devise a plan that would effect his escape. Then he could begin on his mission to unmask the impostor. Berenzia continued to charm and eventually befriended the Urzat's Emperor. By contriving to read his secret diary, she learned that he had broken the Staff of Chaos into 8 pieces and hidden them in far-flung locations scattered across Tamriel. That sounds like an epic quest to retrieve him. She managed to obtain a copy of the key to Rhea's friend's cell and bribe the guard to leave it there as if by accident. Their champion, whose name was unknown even to Berenzia and Edwir, made his escape through a shift gate Rhea had opened in an obscure corner of the Imperial dungeons using her already failing powers. The champion was free at last and almost immediately went to work. It took Berenzia several more months to learn the hiding places of all 8 staff pieces through snatches of overheard conversation and rare glances at Tharn's diary. Once she had the vital information, however, which she communicated to Rhea forthwith, who in turn passed it on to the champion, she and Edward lost no time. They fled to Wayrest, his ancestral kingdom in the province of High Rock, where they managed to fend off the sporadic efforts of Tharn's henchmen to haul them back to the Imperial city, or at the very least obtain revenge. Tharn, whatever else might be said of him, was no one's fool, save perhaps Berenzia's, and he concentrated most of his efforts toward tracking down and destroying the champion. As all now know, the courageous, indefatigable, and forever nameless champion was successful in reuniting the 8 sundered pieces of the Staff of Chaos. Maybe it was Link. With it, he destroyed Tharn and rescued the true Emperor Uriel Septim VII. Following what has come to be known as the Restoration, a grand state memorial service was held for Symmachus at the Imperial city, befitting the man who had served the Septim dynasty for so long and so well. Berenzia and good King Edwir had come to care deeply for one another during their trials and adventures, and were married in the same year shortly after their flight from the Imperial city. Her two children from a previous marriage with Symmachus remained with her, and a regent was appointed to rule Mournhold in her absence. Up to the present time, Queen Berenzia has been in Wayrest with Prince Helseth and Princess Morgaia. She plans to return to Mournhold after Edward's death. Since he was already elderly when they wed, she knows that the event, alas, cannot be far off as the elves reckon time. Until then, she shares in the government of the kingdom of Wayrest with her husband, and seems glad and content with her finally quiet and happily unremarkable life. And that's the end of Berenzia. Now, it sounds really comparable to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Link going after the 8 pieces, Ganondorf the imposter, was Jagar Tharn. I don't know if Bethesda was looking at that story for this story. But the tale of the champion is actually funny because they're implying that the champion could be like a main character in a video game, maybe. Not in any Elder Scrolls video game, maybe something for the future. You'll never know. Alright, let's get to the next book.